right.
You know, there are other Republicans who are still thinking about jumping into the ring, though. Chris Christie, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul. Let's bring in Republican strategist Lisa Booth and Democratic strategist Robert Zimmerman. Lisa, I want to start with you. We got an important list, some big names here. Who benefits the most from this retreat from Romney?
Right. Well, if you look at just a donor perspective, I think it's Jeb Bush and Chris Christie. I think they're looking at a lot of the same donors and also probably a lot of the same, staff that would potentially want to go work for Romney would also be interested in working for Jeb Bush and Chris Christie. But here's what I think is good for the Republican Party. As much as I like Mitt Romney, I think he's a great guy. I think he loves this country. But the problem he had was he just wasn't relatable to Americans in 2012. And what I think is we need a candidate who, is a little bit more relatable to Americans. And here's the problem that Democrats are going to have is I think Hillary Clinton has the same problem that Mitt Romney had with Americans just not seeing them as relatable. Hillary Clinton's someone who's lived in a rarefied world since she was First Lady of Arkansas. This is someone who told the Car Dealers Association that she hasn't driven a car in 18 years. And this is someone that, despite amassing an over $100 million fortune, said that she's not like the truly well off. So I think, we need a strong candidate who's going to has a sharp contrast to Hillary Clinton.
Lisa, your comments illustrate what the challenge and the problem facing the Republican Party. It's not about the fact that they need a fresh face or a political facelift. They need a new message, and that's their issue. In your comments alone, despite all the cliches you ran through with Hillary Clinton, I didn't hear one new idea. And the challenge for the Republican Party is these candidates, as long as they pursue an agenda of advocating deportation of 12 million undocumented workers, demonizing the gay and lesbian community, or denying science exists and we have responsibility for climate change, as long as they pursue that strategy, they may win the right wing in the nomination, but they disqualify themselves from the general election. So the challenge for the Republican Party is not about finding a new face or a new messenger. It's about really an organ transplant and getting a new message.
Well, let me ask you about the announcement. And Lisa, Romney said that, I've been asked and will certainly be asked again if there are any circumstances whatsoever that might develop that could change my mind. That seems unlikely. Listen, after 2008, he said, no, I'm not doing it again. After 2012, he said, no, I'm not doing it again. He's not even in 2016. He says no, but he doesn't say no. Why not just close the door?
That's a good question. And I think, maybe it's just hard for him to close the door, but I don't think he's going to run, and I don't think he should run. I do think it's time for someone new. And to go back to Robert's point about the Republican Party, Hillary Clinton's not running any sort of new message, and she's certainly not a fresh face for Democrats. And the biggest problem Democrats are going to have is someone like Hillary Clinton, who, as I've said, has lived in a rarefied world, is someone that doesn't understand the average American, who's someone who hasn't driven a car in 18 years, is going to have a really hard time driving a populist narrative that Democrats are trying to drive. So, I think Robert should maybe look in the mirror as well as the rest of the Democrat Party.
Lisa,
Robert, last word.
What I found most interesting about Mitt Romney's comments was the way he completely dissed Jeb Bush. I mean, he couldn't have been any more dismissive of Jeb Bush had he called him one.
That doesn't mean anything, though.
Let him finish my point. Let him finish.
He couldn't have been any more dismissive of Jeb Bush had he called him one of the 47%. So I think that speaks to a basic divide that exists among the personalities in the Republican Party. But the bigger issue is not the personalities. The bigger issue is having a message and having new ideas besides playing to the extreme right wing.
Well, it looks like the train is starting to move. People are starting their packs. And, of course, we will continue to have these conversations. Lisa Booth, Robert Zimmerman, thank you for being part of it.